Hello friends and followers. Here's the underside of the 75S-3 Collins receiver. And what I'm after is lubricating the slug rack. So you can see in the corner here, when I turn the slug rack, it'll move down into this area. And so I put some axle grease on that part that moves there because it rubs against the band. And the same with this side here. There's one that moves up and down there. And that looks filthy already, but anyway. Right there, that's moving up and down. So I put some axle grease on those. And boy, it moves nice now. But there's a greater tale of woe I want to discuss with why you shouldn't mess around at all with the slug rack. So I will begin that tale of woe with you here. Basically, I took it apart to lubricate it. I took off the top bar, which is a real bad thing to do. And let me get this radio down here. Okay, so if you take off this top bar, you are looking for real trouble. And myself naively didn't recognize what trouble I could be getting into. So when I took that top bar off, and I did it really because I just wanted to get lubrication into here. I thought, oh, I'll take that off and I'll put lubrication in there and be able to access things better. Oh my God, was that a stupid idea? So that, in taking this bar off, 2 screws here, as soon as that came off, I didn't really notice it, but this rotating cylinder will come off of this little, I guess, bearing assembly. It's not really a bearing, it's like a thrust bearing. It'll come off a thrust bearing, and that'll fall down into here a bit, and not terribly, but the real bugaboo is that the bands here, which are basically some type of metal, which is not springy, but I guess made for this purpose, there's little springs that'll come off, little spring will come off. So these 2 bands are joined together by a little pin in here, a little spring pin. And that spring pin will come off. And it I think took me 2 hours to get that spring pin back on. So there's a spring pin right there. And oh yeah, it looks innocent and nice in there, but to get these things to join is not easy. So I finally got those to join in there. And once they were joined, then I had to put this back together. And so I didn't really loosen up the thrust bearing. I just gingerly, very gingerly, moved this top cylinder back to where I thought it would sit. And that wasn't easy. And finally, by pulling this piece out a bit, got it to sit correctly. And so then that was fine. And then I found that even after all that work and this thing moving, I could move it with my hand basically up and down and, you know, check that it worked. This front knob wouldn't do anything. I couldn't change the position of the slugs with the Pre Selector. It wouldn't work at all. And I was like, oh my God, I broke that. So since I was lubricating things, I thought, oh, I got grease or oil in there and screwed it up. Well, that wasn't really the case. The case was that there's a certain thrust from the back that has to transit through this bar, and then it has to hit this, what's this thing called? A Jackson drive correctly. So you don't want too much thrust that it makes it stiff, and you don't want too little because the Jackson drive won't work. So it's a real balancing act. And I got to thank someone who had posted this in a AM radio phone forum. He was talking about a back bearing here. I looked all around the room. I thought maybe a bearing fell on the floor. I couldn't find a little bearing back here or a little ball bearing or anything, but I don't know, couldn't find it. I guess, I don't know if there was one. Didn't hear it fall out, didn't see it. So I proceeded without a ball bearing in there, just with the thrust bearing hitting the shaft. And this morning I thought, well, the radio is broken. You know, I was turning this thing and it's like it's a neutral. It's not changing the shaft at all. It just wouldn't work. So then, heeding that guy's advice, I just kept carefully loosening up this nut and tightening up this with an Allen key, and until this thing kind of started to work and grip. And then I decided, well, I'm not going to make it too tight, and you kind of want to have it tight enough that it slams down to the bottom, right? But you don't want it loose where it's going to skip. So I think this one is now working well. It's still squeaking a little bit, and I'm not sure what's squeaking, but anyway, all this stuff rubs, so you want to lubricate. And I used axle grease here. Synthetic axle grease I've had around since my Drake days, and this axle grease has been really great for radios. So anything that rubs, I put axle grease on. So I put some grease in here, down here, of course, and of course the other side, the same kind of activity. And I would say it turns about twice as easy as it did before. It doesn't have much problem anymore. I mean, it wasn't bad before, but it was irritating. So now it's pretty good. So that's all been done. And what else can I say about this? What else can I say? Well, if you put it back together, your slugs should be flat or aligned where they were if you got it back together correctly, and mine seemed to be that way. I'm tempted to oil this back here, these bearings, which I haven't done yet, in the Jackson drive. See if I could get it a little better. I'm a little afraid to hit those with oil because I thought, well, maybe it'll ruin the Jackson drive, and if it's working, let it work. But this is probably now about twice as easy. Oh, the other note I had was this. This big roller bearing or roller assembly down here, that does turn when the belt hits it. It will turn, and those were a little stiff. When I had this back one apart, that wasn't, it turned, but it was kind of stiff. So I just put some WD-40 into that one to get it nice and loose. Anyway, if you remove friction, all those little frictions all